Hello, ladies. Hello, hello. If we're running a little bit late today, it is all my fault here. I got dogs barking. My computer's not working. Anyway, it's crazy, but this is real life, and we're talking about real life here, and this is the way it rolls. You can hear my dogs barking in the background. So I have my special guest here today. I'm so excited for you to hear from her because we're really talking today about a subject that every woman needs to address, which is money mindset, right? And so
Mhm.
if you haven't heard Christina's story, she shared a little bit about what happened with her just in the last few months. You've got to go back and hear her story this week. Totally amazing. But this lady, I love her so much. I love her heart. I love her passion for people and just who she is at her core. So I'm super excited to have you on today, Miss Christina Whiteley. Share your genius around money mindset matters. I'm going to go backstage. I'm going to take a few notes, and the stage is all yours, my dear. So, mwah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Taylor. It is such a joy to be here. What an incredible group to be able to come in and talk openly and honestly about life experience and some of the decisions that we make based on our life experience. Um, Prior to getting into the business that I'm in, I was raised in a middle class family where my dad was a union worker. He worked for BC Hydro, so he's a lineman, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom until she went back to work when I was in grade 10. Probably because the cost of living kept going up and up and up with inflation, and we were no longer in a position as a family of four that we could afford to do everything that we wanted, or they could afford to give us the life that they wanted. So one of the questions that I want to ask you, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. So the first question that I'm going to ask you is, when you think of someone rich, what do you think of? What are the characteristics that they have? Because I want to tell you something, and I'll admit to this. I know that Taylor's backstage, but I remember the first time I met her and Larry, I had stars in my eyes. I was like, oh my goodness, how could these people accomplish so much? How could they make so much money? Like, this is incredible. Two people have made such a massive impact on hundreds of thousands of people's lives. Like, this is incredible. This is incredible. And I was nervous. I was really nervous, and I'll tell you why. Because when I grew up, the way that I was raised, and sometimes this comes through Hollywood too. We see rich people, and usually they're villainized, right? They're seen as not good people, like the bad boss, the bad CEO. They're taking advantage of other people, or they're treating people poorly. And the narrative that I was told growing up from my dad, who grew up on welfare, was that those people were bad. And to this day, he still behaves that way. It was about 2 months ago that I was up visiting him, and I do keep my time limited, but I was up visiting him, and he started talking about a business mogul that lives on the island. Now, the island that I live on is quite large. There's almost 1 million people. And he was talking about this business mogul, Jimmy Pattison. And Jimmy Pattison has car dealerships, he has grocery stores, he has restaurants. Like, this guy is incredible. But my dad talked about him being a crook, like, "Oh, that crook, blah, blah, blah," right? Like, he's such a crook. And I said, now that I've grown, now that I've learned, now that I'm an adult, I see that this man has probably had to work extremely hard to acquire the wealth that he has. He also has probably had to make some really hard business decisions with people that didn't understand why he had to make those business decisions. And what I've learned going forward is that you can't take everyone with you. Okay. And your money mindset, what you know you can make in your mind, is actually something that you will never out earn. Like, if you believe you can only make a certain amount of money, you will never out earn that income. And so my dad talked about this guy being a crook. And I said, Dad, Jimmy Pattison has sponsored more sports teams, more builds, like the local arena, playgrounds. He built a hospital wing. I said, I only hope that one day I'm in a position that I can afford to donate enough money to build a hospital wing. And he said, yeah, but it's a write-off. He's using it as a write-off. And I said, yeah, but he could have bought a private jet in an island. But instead, he bought and paid for and donated a hospital wing. Like, that's the kind of impact that I want to make. So I tell you that story because I want you to understand that I didn't come from an entrepreneurial family. I didn't come from a family where my biggest dreams were supported. I came from a family that played it safe, and a family that played within the lines. And how all of this started to develop, the reason that I got to step outside the box, the reason that I felt confident enough to be someone that created more than generations before me, was because I had certain people believe in me, not family members, but community members that saw something in me that they didn't see in other people. And one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about working with women and helping them create a financial stability that'll keep them going throughout their lifetime is because I want them to know that they're capable. I want them to have a belief in themselves that I never got from anybody else until somebody saw a light in me that I could resonate with and thought, man, I'm not that weird. Maybe I do want more. And one of the weird things about money is women don't talk about money very often. They feel awkward talking about it. And whether that is generational or not, when women talk about money, people get uncomfortable. And I don't like that because I've learned over the years, and one of my mentors who Larry and Taylor know quite well, Ray Higdon, he taught me that money is a magnifier for who you are. So if you're a good person, the more money you make, the better you can do. And if you have that money mindset of somebody being bad or evil or taking advantage of other people to get to where they were, inevitably you will self sabotage your behavior. So, what's really important is that you start spending time with people that have bigger aspirations and dreams that you do, people that make more money than you. When I realized that my average income would be the average income of the 5 people I spend the most time with, I started picking very carefully who I spent time with. I started connecting with people that knew how to do more than me. I humbled myself and said, you know what, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to ask questions. I'm willing to put myself out there. And in a situation when I go to an event and Larry and Taylor Thompson are there, I'm willing to be sweaty and shake and feel nauseous with anxiety and walk up to them and start a conversation and start asking questions. And one of the things that Larry said, I'll never forget it. We had a cocktail hour and we were sitting outside and I was just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go talk to them. And it's so funny because it's such a juvenile response, but that's how I was raised. And so I went and talked to them, and they were so gracious. They were so kind. They gave me inspiration, gave me things to work on. And I recognized as I had more courage and put myself in situations with people that I saw as better than me, that they weren't better than me. They just had more experience. They had more wisdom in the areas that I wanted to learn. And so I did have a seat at the table. And so often we don't put ourselves out there. We just don't. Another thing that I started doing was taking responsibility for my finances. So I read a book called Smart Women Finish Rich by David Bach. I also read Automatic Millionaire and Smart Couples Finish Rich. My husband and I, when we did a road trip in Australia, I actually read that book sitting in the front of a camper van driving down the Gold Coast. I read that book and we had conversations around it because I realized how important it was to get my money working for me. Many people have read Rich Dad Poor Dad, one of the first books that they have ever, experienced, that got them thinking a little bit differently about entrepreneurship if they never ever had that upbringing. And so you can't blame your past for where you are now, but you can take responsibility for your future and you can start doing the work now. So I want to tell you a little story about how all of this grew. And it was when I was I actually went to university for music. I didn't get much support there either, by the way. I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to sing on stage. And my parents wanted me to be a music teacher. They're like, you need a pension, you need summers off, you need healthcare. I'm like, no, I need to be a star. I need to be on stage. And ironically now, one of the things that I do is speaking, and it's a huge passion of mine, and it manifested in a different way than I thought. So I'm very grateful for that because as a speaker, I'm able to travel, I'm able to make an impact and be on stage, but I also can enjoy my family life, which is something I'll talk a little bit more about later on. But I went to university for music. I was there for 5 years. I dropped out 2 classes shy of my degree, which my parents are still not thrilled about. But really, I didn't want to be a music teacher. I felt so much pressure to go to school and get a job. and get a pension and healthcare and make my parents proud. But the truth was I fell asleep in almost every university class. I wasn't meant to be there. I'm a doer, I'm a mover, I'm a shaker. Like that's who I am. And sitting there and learning facts and memorizing was just so boring. And so I wanted to get out there and do something different. So I got into being a hairstylist. I thought, okay, I can be creative, I can be a stay-at-home mom, I can make my own schedule, I can work around, my life, maybe eventually work from home. And so I got into hair. And I never had dreams that I could make a lot of money. Like I never even thought of money as a kid. I never even thought of, I just thought get a good job so you can pay your bills, right? I didn't realize how much my bills were going to cost. I remember my first year of university calling my mom and saying, "Mom, there's so many bills. What do I do with them?" And she's like, "You pay them." I'm like, "With what? My student loan? Then what am I going to pay for groceries?" Like I had no concept of how to balance anything or how to make money. And so now, knowing this, one of my missions is to help my daughter learn how to earn and learn how to save and learn how to invest. We can actually change our generational wealth by working with our children, and that's something that I know that Larry and Taylor have done very, very well. So I went to school, became a hairstylist. I got a job at a very popular salon downtown, like the most popular salon downtown. I worked 1 day a week as a hairstylist, a junior hairstylist, and 5 days a week. And so yeah, you're making, that's math. I was working 6 days a week. 5 days a week, I was a assistant at the salon, and so like I was cleaning up, sweeping hair, and doing towels, and cleaning up after all the other stylists until I worked my way up and had my own, brought in my own clientele. So I worked that job, and I was really excited about getting the job there because of the status of the salon. It was the cool place to work, right? So every Monday they would have a class, and lo and behold, the first Monday that I show up, and I'm a junior stylist, brand new, the class is how to be $100,000 stylist, and my brain nearly exploded. I was like, $100,000 a year? I can make $100,000 a year? Oh my God. Okay. So I got my notes out. I'm like writing everything down. And what she taught was goal setting. My parents never taught me that. I never got taught that in school. I just had deadlines I had to do or not do, right? And so she taught goal setting, and she broke down, okay, how many highlights and haircuts would you have to do in a week? How many highlights and haircuts would you have to do in a day? How much money would that bring in? How many would you have to do to make to make $100,000 in a year? And so as I'm writing all these numbers down, I'm like, okay, like this is actually really doable. I can do 3 highlights in a day and 2 haircuts. Like I can do this, right? But it was at a senior stylist level. I was just a junior hairstylist. So I had some work to do. I had to get some education. I had to hone my skills. I had to get better so I could be a senior stylist, right? But that training is something that has shaped the rest of my life to the point that now I'm starting a hashtag called the 6-figure stylist, because that really helped me plant the foundation of how to build, how to goal set, how to go after things in bite-sized pieces. Because had I thought $100,000 a year, I'll never be able to do that. And by the way, in that environment, it turned out that I couldn't. What ended up happening is I worked my butt off for 5 years to hit that goal. I was like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to be $100,000 stylist. And I tell you the story because my success was never fast. I'm 37 and I'm still working on my first million, but I promise you that that is coming in, like my first $1 million year is what I'm talking about. And so I realized that I was in some trouble because I couldn't get past that junior stylist. I wanted to be a senior stylist so I could make $100,000 a year. So I go to my manager 5 years in, or I think it's actually 4 years in, and I'm like, hey, so I have a full-time clientele. I've gone to New York 10 times to do hairstylist training. I have all of the accreditation that you asked me to get. I'm one of your top salespeople in product. I have returning customer or clients and new customers and new clients, and I've done everything that you asked. So I will be promoted to the next, I want to be a senior stylist now. And my manager looked at me and she said, oh, Christina, she's like, you've done everything that we asked you to do. But the person that is above you, the next person in line as a senior stylist, he's been doing hair for 11 years and you've only been doing hair for 4. We can't promote you to that rank because we can't promote him to the next rank, but he's been doing hair for 11 years. And to me, my brain again almost exploded. I was like, what do you mean? I've done everything you asked. I had hit my glass ceiling. And I thought, oh man, hit my glass ceiling. And by the way, at that job, the most I ever made was $36,000 a year. I was working like a dog. I was working 6 days a week on top of 2 bartending shifts on Friday and Saturday night so I could pay my rent. I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. And so I looked at my manager in that meeting and I said, "How in the heck am I supposed to make more money and continue to work here if I'm never going to be able to promote and be a senior stylist here? Like, that doesn't even make sense." And she said, "Christina, well, why don't you start taking a couple of clients at home? Why don't you start why don't you start doing maybe weddings on the side, because you do weddings in the salon. Take a couple weddings on your day off. That's what I do." And I thought, I wonder if the owner knows she's saying this, but I'm going to run with it anyways. And by the way, I had never run my own business. I didn't go to school. I went to school for music, right? I didn't have a business background. So I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So I went home. My husband picked me up that day and I was in tears. And I said, what am I going to do? Like, I got to figure this out. He's like, well, we'll put a sink in the house, and we'll set off our little area off the kitchen as a little salon. There's an outdoor entrance, and we can do this. We can do this. And just like that, within a month I was set up. And within a month I got a bookkeeper and I had somebody that was an accountant, because those were the things that scared me and I had no idea how to do them. And then time went on and I think it was about 6 months, and I was making more in that 1 day a week at home than I was making in 5 days a week at the salon. So I decided that I was going to transition and I was going to start working at home. So guess what happened when I did that? I said, I gave my notice and I decided I was going to work from home. The owner of the salon called every single one of my clients and offered them a free service. Every single one of them offered them free products and a free service, knowing that I couldn't compete with that as a new business. And it was November. I just left the salon in October and it was November. And so every single one of those clients that called me and said that they offered that, I said, look, it's Christmas. You want to save some money on Christmas presents and on your gifts, you should absolutely go and take advantage of that free service. And it'll be with a junior stylist. It won't be with someone of my, of my expertise, but go get the free service. And then I will really appreciate your support when you come back. And every single one of those people came back because they saw through it. And many of them didn't even take advantage of that offer. But I'm telling you, because the line up to success, to what you want, is never a straight one. And you're always going to have things that kick you in the butt, humble you, make you drop your ego in an instant. Knowing that I didn't have the capacity to compete with a woman who was doing business downtown as a single person in a salon that I was now running on my own and had no idea how to run. But I tell you, because everything is figure outable. And when you're a good person and you have good intentions, the right people will come to you. So I started working that job. I started working from home, and lo and behold, my wedding business took off. I ended up having to hire other stylists to go on site with me. We were known very well on the island. We were known in our city. We'd won wedding awards. We were featured in magazines. It was awesome. And June, July, August, September, $10,000 months. I never thought I could make $10,000 a month ever. But I was burnt out. I was exhausted. I didn't understand how I was supposed to continue working. My body hurt. I was being exposed to chemicals all the time. And I didn't know how long I could continue. Well, that answer came very quickly when I got pregnant. My daughter was 3 weeks old when I shifted careers, because late into my pregnancy, I was 7 months pregnant. I had a really terrible shoulder injury and I was unable to continue working. So I didn't have any other options. Again, another kick in the butt, another like huge blow to my ego, in that I can do this. All of a sudden, I no longer have myself that I can put behind a chair. And so I had to shift again. And that's when I saw a girl that was posting about her online business. And I got into online business because I thought, man, if this girl is a house cleaner and she's been working in this online marketing business for a year and she can make $20,000 a month, damn well, I can too. But do you see what happened over those 10 years of growing into being a stylist and building skills and starting my own business? I grew confidence, not because I had confidence, but because I had courage to try. I had courage to ask questions. And I found that courage in other people that were doing the same thing that I wanted to do. So I went to those people and I said, I am so burnt out. How do you do this? Like, how do you possibly continue when you're so burnt out? And I had seen friends open salons and they were making no more money than me and they were working way more hours than me and they were managing people. And they were managing all of the mess ups that people had and they were managing no shows. And I just thought, none of this is worth it, especially having my daughter. So 3 weeks into having my daughter, I got into online marketing. I didn't have any skills, I didn't have any education or experience, but I was willing to learn and grow from people around me. And I thought, why not me? Why can't I do that? So I did. I poured into any of the training that was in front of me. I failed forward. I sent the wrong messages. I posted the wrong things. I lost friends. People didn't want to hang out with me anymore because I was involved in one of those things. But I knew that there was a bigger picture. I knew there was a life. I look outside in front of me, and you guys can't see where we live now, but we used to live in the city with a little postage stamp size lot. Actually, in the last 6 months, the parking lot across the street from us has been turned into a homeless camp, and they're actually putting in um, shipping containers to house the homeless where we used to live. And I think, how blessed are we that we had the courage to try something different? We had the courage to try something new. And at the time, $10,000 months were incredible to me as a hairstylist, but I didn't want to miss out on raising my daughter. I didn't want to miss out on her life. I didn't want to miss out on camping on the weekends or birthdays and barbecues with her cousins because I was working. So, what I learned is that when you follow your passions, me being a mom, I love helping people. I love making people feel good about themselves. My job as a hairstylist, the reason that I loved it is because when they left or when I was there for them on their wedding day and they felt the most beautiful they have ever felt in their entire lives, I got to see that. I got to see people's confidence. I got to see them come alive. I got to have them in my chair and talk about their life and learn about how they could be helped, or conversations or books that could help them through my personal development. And when I decided that I was going to do what I wanted to do, that nobody was going to be able to tell me that I couldn't, that's when doors started opening. That's when I realized those $10,000 months as a stylist could be $10,000 a month online, which is what they turned into. And I want to tell you something. If you can make $10,000 a month, you can make $100,000 a month. If you can make $100,000 a month, you can make $1 million a month. It's just a matter of scaling and being patient, because people highly, I think, is it Tony Robbins that say they highly overestimate what they can do in a year, but they highly underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And I always say, people really underestimate the adversity they're going to have to overcome. They think, why is this happening to me? Maybe I'm not meant to go down this path. But the reason I told you those stories before is because my mind had to grow. It had to expand to a place that I believed that it was possible. And like I said before, if you right now believe, like if you put down a number on paper right now and you're like, I can make $200,000 a year, that's how much money I can make, or I know I can make this in the next year. You'll never out earn the $200,000. You'll never go to $500,000 or a million a year. So it's starting to get in front of people that have bigger dreams and aspirations, bigger money mindsets, people that have created more than you, and understand that you have a seat at the table. Know that your voice matters, and the song that you have in your heart, the one that bursts through, that you think, man, if I could do anything in the world, if money and time were no option, or were not an option, and like I didn't have to worry about any of those things and they were just there, what would it be that you do? And alignment with that purpose and that passion is what will bring you the money. And spending time with people who have more than you will also bring you the same result. So, Taylor, I would love to bring you back on and and if you'd like for me to expand on any of those things, um, and kind of we can talk about some of that and kind of expand, if that's okay with you. I can't hear you. Sorry, you're muted, my love.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I appreciate the story that you shared about Larry and I. Wow. I mean, I'm so humbled, to be honest.
I was so nervous, my friend. And then I was like, "Don't be weird, Christina. Don't be weird. Like, don't be weird in that you put them on this pedestal and not have a normal conversation with them, right?" And that's just because I'm a small town girl.
Well, and and the thing about it is honestly, I can relate to that, and because, I'm a West Texas girl. I was raised in a trailer house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I connect with you, and, um, but what you shared, I mean, because I think that that was the thing that I learned early on, and that I wanted to be like, I wanted everybody to see me as being approachable, as being not that person, not that, oh my God, um, I never wanted to have anybody feel disconnected from me in any way, or less than, or all of those things that I think are kind of human nature at the end of the day. I mean, no matter who you are, no matter what, I think that mindset around people, is created, um, inadvertently, sometimes intentionally, but sometimes inadvertently. And, I think, the things, that message that Larry and I always really, really want to communicate more than anything is that you are good enough. And I would love the way you said it. You have a seat at the table. And it reminds me of the scripture, that, he prepares for you a table in the presence of your enemies. And not that you should have enemies, but the point of it is that you have a seat at the table always. And so I love that you shared that, because I think a lot of people can certainly connect to that. And then the other thing is that the ceilings, this, and there's always ceilings, but sometimes we have self-imposed ceilings that we don't even realize that are there. We don't even realize they're where it's like, I don't know if you've heard the story of the fleas in the jar. Do you know this
And
story?
no, no, I don't
So
think so.
there's a story of the fleas in the jar, and that, like, you can take fleas and you can put them inside the jar. And so the fleas, their nature, will jump and jump and jump and jump and jump, and they'll hit their head on the lid. They'll keep hitting their head on the
Right,
lid, on the
right,
lid, on
right.
the lid, over and over and over, trying to escape the jar. But at some point, they become trained. So where you can take the lid off, the lid's gone, but the fleas never get out of the jar,
They can't.
because they know how high the ceiling is, so to speak. They know where the ceiling is. They know just how high without hitting their
Hitting
head.
their head.
And the concept is true as to how we see ourselves, and how we start limiting and seeing where our level is. And whenever you take it back to the way you were raised, and this is why culture, this is why environments are so important, that you have to create cultures that allow people to grow in their belief and grow in their mindsets, because they don't know what they don't know.
That's right.
And whenever you start exposing them and they start seeing the lids off, the ceilings removed, you you're no different than me. If I can do it, you can do it. And you start communicating those messages, and the belief starts to expand.
That's right.
And I love this message. I love, how you shared it, because it's so down to earth, and how you know what I mean? Because it's so true. It's so applicable in every aspect of what we do, from being the way you were raised, you know, not forcing your children into going to college. I mean, like, I have three daughters. Only one graduated from college, but the other two are in trades and in businesses as entrepreneurs for themselves, that, I mean, they make probably more money than most people with college degrees.
They certainly, I'm sure they do.
And so it's one of those things that you have. I mean, I think it's really just not putting parameters around people, and I love, because I know how you're raising Izzy, you didn't get equipping her in all the ways that you didn't, all the ways that you weren't able to. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, because sometimes, we have a tendency to do what our parents did, to do what they did, um, and so I think if we can escape that and
That, yes.
take that to another level. I mean, whenever I see my kids, I hope that they're equipped at a whole nother level. They're taking at a whole nother space. And that's what I see you doing with Izzy for sure.
It takes, and it takes time and patience. It's so much easier to rush through those lessons and just, it's like this, right? But I want to give you, well, two examples. You talked about the lid with the fleas, and we trained our dog to not go upstairs that way. We put a gate at the bottom of the stairs for a year, and then we took the gate away, and the dog didn't go upstairs.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can, that it's just, it's inherent in what they do. And so with Izzy, this is, and I say it with Izzy because it's so easy to use her as an example, but in life, when I talk to people, it doesn't happen the first time. You don't just say, hey, like Taylor wouldn't just say to me, Christina, you can make $1 million a year. Don't worry about it. Like it takes time and effort and energy to pour belief into people and help them build their confidence. So yesterday was the perfect example. We were at the park, and there's this big rope thing that, like a spider web that you can climb up, but she gets really nervous because it's high. And so she gets to a certain place and then she jumps down. She gets to a certain place, she jumps down. And I said, Izzy, I believe that you have the skills to go to the top. Like, I believe in you that you have the skills. I don't think you're going to fall, because I've seen you climb before. Yeah. And so she's like, okay, really? So she goes a little bit farther. And then I hear her say, Izzy, believe in yourself. Izzy, believe in yourself. And I didn't prompt that. I didn't anything, but I was like, yes. Like I'm silently cheering her on, right? And so if you can loan your belief to somebody and be there for them, encourage them, they start to take on your belief as their own.
Yeah.
And that will shift their life.
That's part of the culture, that I taught, that we teach them. And just because whenever I think about, speaking of, whenever I think about culture, in the sense that, people only can see themselves making double what they're currently at. That's as far as they can stretch their mind. And, whenever we approach people with money and, $10,000 a month, even $100,000, I mean, their mind is like, they can't even hear your words. It's like, you might as well be Charlie Brown going, wah, 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 wah,
Totally.
They can't. And I say that because even whenever you listen to Larry's story, and most people, whenever they think back on their journey, especially as a network marketer, or even in business, it doesn't even matter, earning potential. Larry shares a story, 50 plus years ago now. And whenever his mentor, Bobby DePew, said, well, if it only works out 10% for you, the way it's worked out for some of us, it will be the best thing ever. So how you position your conversation as to how people hear what's being said makes all the difference, because Larry couldn't buy into the 90%, but he defaulted to the 10%. He did buy into, what if it could work out just 10%? And that's the mindset of most people we are dealing with, because they can't wrap their brain around that. It was the same thing for me. I defaulted to a 10%. My story, I share, this couple that was making $10,000 a month. I never believed for a minute somebody like me, West Texas, born in a trailer park, raised in a, could be 10,000. Oh my God, no.
That's like millions in our brain.
It's like, hello. But what I did believe is, if they can do that, I did default 10%. I thought, if they can do that, maybe I can make 800. That's what got me to raise my hand, take the step forward. And so you've got to meet people where they are and speak the language they can understand. And whenever you do that and then create this incubator, I call it the incubator space that allows their mindset to grow as they grow, and as you say, buy into the belief, or believe for them, bridge the gap between where they are and where you think they might want to be or grow or potentially be, or the potential you have in them. I'm telling you, all that makes all the difference in the world, for
How you
people that
frame it.
come into our communities.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like that's something that I even learned a little bit more about. So how you frame a situation, what that looks like to them, you have to learn how to speak other people's language and frame it so that they understand. Chris Voss just did a really great book, and he was an FBI negotiator for hostages. And so he talks about how to negotiate with people and how to frame things in a way that they feel like they're winning all the time. And
Yeah.
that's the goal, right? That's something that you and Larry taught me too. When you talk to somebody, make them feel good about themselves, make them feel good about you, and make them feel good about what you're talking to them about,
Yep. You it and
right?
them. You it and them all the way,
That's
man.
right.
You it and
That's
them.
right.
I love this conversation, and I see, Alicia's. She's like, love it. Well done, Christina. I mean, it is. I love the fact that uh, because you're so authentic in sharing your journey and sharing the realisms. I mean, just by you sharing that vulnerability piece of how what you connected and where you mindset, and most people wouldn't even allow themselves to even verbalize that, and
I'm over it.
I love that, because that's truly how so many people feel that are not ever willing to connect to, emotionally connect to. They may feel it, but they're not willing to verbal, like saying, own this, like own this space. Why am I feeling like that? Because to me, that is an essential part of growth,
Yeah.
is to be able to evaluate, why do I feel this way? Why am I thinking
Right.
this way? Why do I feel this way? And how can I grow through this? And if people would be willing to evaluate themselves in those spots whenever they feel that little bit of, okay, that's awkward. I don't know about that. I don't know how I feel about that. And take that and go, okay, how can I grow from this? So I love the fact that you do that. You do that so well, and you talk about it so well. It's such a great attribute. Such a
Oh,
great
thank
attribute.
you. I think, watching how my father spoke about people, and like I just learned the things that I didn't want to be. Like I didn't want to be negative towards people. And I found that in my younger years, and I think I mentioned this on the video yesterday or on our interview a couple days ago, but I was an angry teenager. Like I was not the person that I am today at all. And through that time, I was envious a lot of people. I was envious of other families. I was envious of people that had money. I got my first job when I was 13 because I went from private school with a uniform into public school because you couldn't go to grade 12 at the private school. And then all of a sudden I didn't have a uniform, and I wanted one pair of Guess jeans because all the kids were, what it's like, the competition. And my dad said, "No in hell you're getting that. You're going to Walmart and getting jeans." And I was like, I would be mortified if I had to go to Walmart. So I got my first job at 13. And I
Yeah.
thought, you know what, instead of being envious, I'm going to be a problem solver. And instead of looking at those people and being like, I could never be like that, or like, oh, I bet they hurt people to get there, I'm like, hey, how did you do that? I just get curious instead, and the vulnerability piece, like the shame that we carry with our vulnerability, if we shine a light on that shame, like Brene Brown says, nobody can use it against you, right? Like you guys can come and say, yeah, well, you were raised like this or what, like you can say all these things. Sure I was. What, like now this is who I am.
And I love this right here. And here's the thing: it's like really asking the questions, and so many people aren't willing to raise their hand to ask the question, and they want to shrink back because of pride or insecurity or whatever that is. And I'm like you. I mean, I love that you said this. You became a problem solver. I mean, I lied to get my first job.
I did too. I didn't tell them how old I was.
Old enough, right? I mean, I wasn't old enough, so I lied to get it, because I was in the same place too. I mean, and I wanted a pair of Guess jeans too, but here's what I'm going to tell you about that. Even though my mom wouldn't buy them, we couldn't afford them. I was willing to, but they didn't make them long enough for me.
I needed mine hemmed. I had to roll them up.
So, I mean, like, I was in a lose-lose spot, all right? I mean, sorry, I'm in a lose-lose spot there. But here's the thing. So, ladies, like, this is such a great way for you to start the exercise of where you are with your mindset, where you are when it comes to money and equipping yourselves. And here's the thing, not only just equipping yourselves, if you're not doing it for you, at least do it for your family, at least do it for your children and show them how to manage money. And because, I never had that, you never had that, but now we're raising up a new generation that will be equipped at another level. We're taking them to a higher level. And that's, if you're not willing to do it for yourself, man, at least be willing to do it for your family, right?
I couldn't say that
And
any better.
so and so, so that is, I really appreciate this conversation, Miss Christina. As always, I appreciate you taking your time away from your family and your business to be here and share your values, share your excellence with the ladies here in the She Network. And I'm sorry for my background, ladies. It is just chaos around here, but it is what it is. Life happens, life goes on, and so this is how
How we
we
roll.
roll. This is
That's
how we
right.
roll.
Thank you, Taylor, for having me. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm always here for you and your network. I'm always, available if people have questions or want to message me. I'm happy to help.
I love that. I love that. So that's it for us, ladies. You guys have a blessed day, and hang on to you, Christina. And I'm going to say bye to you.